Ever since I started gardening on this property, I've just gotten more and more energy, more creativity, more motivation for growing my own food, for creating. One of the things that I have learned over the years is that in a lot of ways the garden does grow itself. Welcome to New Garden Road, where I share my love of gardening with you in a way that I hope will inform, inspire, and elevate you. Subscribe and get notified. More garden action coming at you. Now that I've been at it for well over 10 years, I think my advice to a brand new gardener or someone who was dreaming of building a huge big garden and you've never done so is be prepared to do everything over again. Be prepared to overhaul it, redesign it. You're gonna have a lot to learn along the way, and that's gonna be specific to the area that you're growing in, the climate, the microclimate, the exposure, as well as the soil type. Not all soils are equal, and that's really the secret of the garden, is the soil. In the last year, I have worked extremely hard to replace all of the wooden bed frames for my raised beds. At one point in this garden, I had probably 22 to 24 raised beds. I had about 6-7 years on the lumber that I had put in initially, and it all started to rot, which is natural. It's going to do that eventually. I replaced it with something a lot thicker. I really love it. It's all natural cedar. Yeah, just totally excited and energized about everything that I've created here. In the process of this, I decided I would change the format a bit. So I did quite a lot of that. The whole reasoning behind reformatting the garden and making them more uniform in size and shape was so that I could transpose my garden plan from one season to the next more easily. Crop rotation, also the specific amount of crops I knew I wanted to grow. Say I always grow 32 kale plants annually. If I had some smaller beds, I'd have to break up the planting, whereas what I really like to do is plant up a whole 4x8 and I can get 32 kale plants in there, whole bed of kale. Feed them all the same way, water them all the same way, cover them appropriately when necessary. Just gives it a more uniform, efficient approach. I think it looks better than it used to. I think it looks better than ever. It's certainly been more productive than ever. I've really opened up the corridor around the garden. It's nice to walk around. It's very meditative for me. I feel like it's more beautiful. Over the years, I've really lost some large shade trees. I had a lot on my east fence line, and one particular hurricane came through the area, really caused some problems, and I lost 5 mature trees on my east fence line, which opened up the morning sun like you wouldn't believe. The following fall, I was astounded at how vigorously things grew in the garden. I've really worked hard to maintain and improve my soil over the years. I'm adding compost typically twice a year. I'm always keeping something growing in there, whether it's a cover crop or a vegetable or some annual flowers. Something needs to be growing in the soil. There's life in the soil, and the plants and the soil work together to keep that all going. So I believe strongly it's important to have some things grow in your soil. You don't ever want to leave it bare. If you didn't want to plant in it for an extended period of time, I would recommend covering up with a really heavy layer of mulch. Truth be told, what I've created here ultimately is a racetrack for my dogs. I have 2 little Mexican hairless, and they love to run around the garden. Before I did this reformat, it was a little bit harder for them to get a good run around it. And that may seem silly, but being in the garden, walking around, enjoying time outside is really what it's all about for me, as well as growing my own food. Next to that would be having a healthy environment for my dogs to be able to exercise in. So prepare yourself for a learning journey. Hopefully you're living in a place where it's really easy. However, if you live in Central Texas or other similar climates, just be prepared. Here, the soil is really poor and the weather is really inconsistent. You're gonna have a hot summer, you're gonna have some cold in the winter, but the difference is in the summer, you might not have any rain for 3 months. In the winter, you may have days that are 80, 85 degrees, followed by days with highs in the 40s. Really difficult to keep a garden acclimated and growing consistently and vigorously during those conditions. My gardening practice really informs my mental health. It keeps me on track. Gardening is like a filter. It really helps me to work out some of the negativity, things that I pick up through my commute. It really just provides a unique balance for me in my life that I just can't see getting from anything else. So I really had no choice, no alternative but to build my dream garden. I hope you're able to do the same. Check out some of the other awesome gardening videos on my channel. Learn to grow your own food and keep it organic.